And today also, we have another interesting topic, which will also be taken by another lady. I think we are actually very sensitive in terms of gender. So this shows that women are actually coming up when it comes to the issues of mining. Today is another interesting topic. We'll be dealing on the minerals in transitioning to a net zero energy carbon environment, an ESG perspective. So I think it's something most of us will actually want to participate and make their contributions and also submit their questions. Today, for the benefit of some of us that are joining us for the first time, sorry, this is initiative advancement in mining, earth sciences, and environmental protection, IAMESEP. IAMESEP is an advocacy organization. It's a non-governmental and it's charitable, composed of people of like minds in geosciences, mining, engineering, and have a kind of a common focus to dedicate and foster knowledge and awareness about Nigerian geology, mineral resources to everyone, all the stakeholders, the educators, investors, entrepreneurs, and the general public in practical terms. That's why we'll have our slogans as mining matters. And also we have our visions to ensure professionalism through fostering awareness of geologists, of Nigerian geology and mineral resources at every level, and to also bridge the existing gaps among the relevant stakeholders while holding the best global practices. So to this end, I think on a very short note, this is what IAMESEP actually stands for. And today's topic has been an interesting one. If we look at what is going on globally now, we are approaching a decisive moment for, international efforts to tackle the climate crisis. It's a great challenge to our times. The number of countries that have pledged to reach net zero emissions by mid-century or soon after countries to grow, a lot of companies are actually pledged to meet up with these demands. This gap between the rhetoric and action needs to close if we are to fight, or if we are to actually get to reaching net zero by 2050, and also limiting the rise in global temperature to about 1.5 degrees centigrade. So that is why this topic is very, very relevant. If you recall the 26th conference of the parties of the United Nations, you will know that the focal point for strengthening global ambition and action is actually everything is centered and built on, on the foundation of Paris Agreement towards making sure that the emissions actually reduce drastically. And all of us will understand also that the 75% of the emissions globally are coming out from energy. The International Agency has been also working hard to support the different organizations, UK government, to also make sure that the world actually attains to these needs. So this is why we think it is also very important that we actually talk about this, because Nigeria also needs to follow suit. The issue is not only in mining alone or exploration or an exploitation of these mineral resources, but the sustainability of them and having a sustainable environment where we can live in the nearest future. So we need to key into what is happening globally in order to bring health and sustainability to our environment. So today has been another wonderful topic, and we want to deal on that topic. And please be free to also note whatever you might want to ask or contribute while we are going on. And before we go further, our chief advisor, which is Dr. Mrs. Salau, is also here with us, and some of our participants who have been consistent. I think in this game, I always say that all of us has something to contribute, and we can also do whatever we need to do in terms of advocacy for us to actually move this platform further. And on our own individual basics, whatever we need to do for government to listen and put a sustainable condition, or a condition that is encouraging for investors and also for us to live in the near future. So we need to actually bring some of these things to your attention. So we keep talking it. One day, whoever wants and cares to hear will definitely hear. So at this juncture, I will want to invite Dr. Misalau to make a welcoming remark to some of our participants today on the platform. After that, I will now maybe introduce our presenter today. She will be also joining us from UK, and I'll maybe introduce her before she takes over the platform. Thank you very much, and you're welcome.
Yeah, thank you very much, everybody. Thank you very much for being with us today, once again today. At least we have been moving, and the young are not left behind. Is their own agenda, is their own ability to showcase what they have been doing. And today, the young are catching up very fast. Very fast, I mean very fast, because they organize their things. We are just, we have mentors here and there as a professional, professors, doctors, and in all walks of life, both stakeholder and private, other private companies. We thank you for supporting us up to this point. And we will always appreciate you. What we are here for is advocacy on the mineral resources of Nigeria, as the earlier speaker had spoken. We will not relent effort in spreading out our knowledge, our field experience, articulate it with the classroom teachings to bring out the best out of the industry. Today, we have a special topic on transitional minerals, as well as how do we get to the zero net work in the mineral resources. It's very important, and we need to work on it from now on, before we are cut off, just like what is happening in China now, presently, with energy, because light is becoming scarce and people are panicking. And behold, we know that this can affect us anytime, because all of us depend on the second world largest economist, which is China. Today, I'm welcoming my dear lady of substance, who had agreed to spare its 2 hours to give us what he had been doing on the ESG perspectives in the mineral resources. Thank you for coming on board. Thank you. God bless you.
Okay, God bless all of us. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Yes. We appreciate that. I want us to, in a few minutes, yes, bring in our presenter. She holds her first degree in geology and a second degree in sustainability, climate change, and low carbon. Chidinma had actually been one of the co-founders and sustainability consultants, Cyrock Enterprises, and also a fund chairperson in Dundee, Scotland. She has also been a visiting or guest lecturer at University of Dundee, and also participated in different notable projects, which involves a lot of work on sustainability assessment of the behavior of people to trace metal pollutions in Nigeria. He has designed and researched and planned the program, technical know-how, and also some behavioral change policies, and also she has done some work on sustainability assessment of oil companies to ascertain its corporate and responsibilities. A lot of work has actually been done by her, and she also worked here in Nigeria before moving to UK. This morning, Chidinma Iro will be joining us to speak on this topic, mineral in transitioning to a net zero energy carbon environment, and ESG perspective. Please, I want to make welcome to the platform our presenter today. Chidinma, the platform is yours. I don't know if you can share your slide from there, or you prefer we share it from our own, but I've given you permission to share from your own end. So if you can't do that, you can go ahead and share your slide.
Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you, Gideon. Thank you, Dr. Salome. It's nice to be on the platform, and nice to be able to speak to yourselves about this very special topic about transitioning to a low carbon future. And I will try and see if I can share my slide, if it's visible by yourselves. And the topic today is minerals in transitioning to net zero energy carbon environment and ESG perspective. And in order to, today I'm going to be walking us through the fundamentals of minerals, from what minerals are, the various types of minerals, the minerals required to transition to net, through the fundamentals of minerals, from what minerals are, the various types of minerals, the minerals required to transition to a net zero energy carbon environment, the various applications of these critical minerals, those peculiar to an energy environment, the demand of these critical minerals, the big players in production, the importance of these minerals, where they are found, issues they are faced with, ESG definition, is sustainability in the mining sector, and how it can be resolved. Just to have this at the back of our minds, that a low carbon future is just a future based on sustainable actions, mainly focused on reducing and taking out greenhouse gases generated in the production chain, resulting in less environmental impact in a low carbon future. Is a low carbon future. Now, achieving a global energy transition that is compatible with the world's climate goals is unquestionably a formidable task. Current pledges by governments to reduce emissions to net zero collectively cover around 70% of today's global economic activity and global CO2 emissions. The announced pledges case shows that if all these pledges were met in full, it would narrow the gap between where we are heading and where we need to be to achieve net zero emissions by 2050 worldwide. It also shows that the gap would remain large. Meeting all existing net zero pledges in full would still leave about 22 gigatons of energy-related and industrial process CO2 emissions globally in 2050. This is consistent with the temperature rise in 21,000 of around 2.2 0.1 degrees centigrade with a 50% probability. That is to show that we're not even anywhere close to the target of the Paris Agreement, which is 1.5 degrees centigrade. Now, critical minerals play a major role in transitioning to net zero. ESG factors, which are the environmental, social governance factors, reduces the risks and strengthens the resilience of mining of these critical minerals. What are minerals? These are minerals that we already know are naturally occurring in organic solid. Example, gold, silver, mercury, graphite, diamond, oxides, example, corrodium, sapphire, including sapphire, goethite, brucite, sulfides, example, pyrites, galena, sphalerite, sulfates, example, barytite, gypsum, carbonates, example, calcite, magnesite, dolomite, then phosphates, which are the arsenic, some of the fluorides and chlorides and apatites contain the phosphate. The halides include the sodium chloride, which are the salt minerals. Other types of minerals include metals and non-metals. The metallic family are called the lithium family, which include lithium and sodium. Metals are fundamental to human existence. They are ubiquitous in manufactured goods and supporting infrastructure we use and rely on daily. Metals perform a myriad of functions, including enabling the technologies needed to decarbonize the global economy, such as the low carbon energy generation and zero emissions transports. Humans, however, use metals in vast quantities, and their extractions and processing have profound environmental consequences, particularly in the emission of greenhouse gases. Now, the term net zero refers to the target of reducing the greenhouse gas emissions that cause global warming to zero by balancing the amount released into the atmosphere from sources with the amount removed and stored by carbon sinks. This is also described as carbon neutrality and sometimes climate neutrality. Getting to net zero requires significant abatement of greenhouse gas emissions across all sectors of the economy. We already know, just as Gideon had earlier mentioned, that energy is a major source of life, and transitioning from the fossil fuel to renewables, including wind, solar power to generate electricity, is significant in reducing carbon dioxide emissions in many of the countries. To make deeper cuts in emissions, large-scale investments and innovations are needed to provide technologically viable and economically competitive alternatives to these fossil fuels intensive technologies in sectors like heating and transport, and to reduce emissions of greenhouse gases other than carbon dioxide, such as methane, from sectors like agriculture. Metals and minerals are critical to this net zero transition to counter the climate change, and they enable transition to net zero energy, carbon, environment. We're going to look at what metals and minerals are required for this transition into net zero energy supplies and which ones are critical to energy production and transitioning. The application of critical minerals. Now, the minerals that are required to transition to net zero are aluminium, and their primary use are in aircraft production, power transmission lines, lightweight alloys, antimony, lead acid batteries, arsenic, microwave communications, barite, oil and gas drilling fluid, beryllium, satellite communications, beryllium metal for aerospace, there's bismuth, pharmaceuticals, lead-free sodas, cobalt, jet engines, super alloys, rechargeable batteries, there's gallium, which are used in radar, light-emitting diodes, cellular phones. There's graphite, rechargeable batteries, body armor. There's indium, flat panel displays, specialty alloys. There's lithium, rechargeable batteries, aluminum, lithium alloys for aerospace, niobium, high-strength steel for defense and infrastructure, platinum group metals, the catalyst, super alloys for jet engines, There's the rare earth elements, which are used in battery production, electronics, magnets, communications, and medical technologies. There's the uranium, that are used in jet engines and catalysts. There's tantalum, used in capacitors in cellular phones, jet engines, which are superalloys. There's tellurium, used in infrared devices during night vision and solar cells. Then tin, used in flat panel displays and solder. There's tungsten, used in cutting and drilling tools, catalysts, jet engines. Then there's vanadium, used in jet engines and airframes and high-strength steels. The ones that are peculiar to the energy, to net zero energy carbon environment are aluminium. Aluminium is used in wind energy, solar photovoltaic. It's also used in concentrating solar power. There is chromium. Chromium is used in wind energy, solar photovoltaic. It's also used in light-emitting electrodes. It's used in electric cars, same as aluminium. It's used in electric cars and electric batteries. We also have chromium. We have cobalt. We have copper. They're all used in similar things: nuclear power, light-emitting diodes, electric vehicles, electric diodes, and electric motors. There is copper, used in wind energy, used in solar photovoltaic, also used in carbon capture and storage. There is indium, used in solar photovoltaic, used in carbon capture and storage and nuclear power. There's also iron, used in wind, concentrating solar power, and used in electric rechargeables. There's iron, there's lead, there's manganese, all used in generating wind and solar photovoltaic. Then there's molybdenum, used in wind energy and solar photovoltaic, and is also used in carbon capture. And there is niobium, also used in electric vehicles and used in wind energy. We also have nickel and silver. Nickel is used in wind energy generation and solar photovoltaic. It's also used in carbon storage. Then silver is used in solar photovoltaic generation. Then we also have steel. Steel is used in generating wind energy. These are the minerals, the metals that are peculiar to that will enable us to transition to net zero energy carbon environment. Now, statistics have shown that the demand for clean technologies will ramp up by 2030. And if we look at the next slide, we would see that the demand for key clean technologies that will transition us to a net zero carbon environment, a net zero carbon path. The major ones are solar, photovoltaic, and wind energy. In the year 2020, they were not in high demand. Their demand, according to this graph, was not up to 400 gigawatts. However, this was by year 2020. By year 2030, it ramped up by 4 times. We can see from the graph that the solar photovoltaic became 600 gigawatts, while the wind became 1,000 gigawatts. So all by 4 times 4. And electric car sales, we can see that the demand for it in 2020 was very low, not up to 10 million. And by 2010, this ramped up to more than 55 million car sales by 2030. And we can also see that fossil fuel demand by 2020 was very high, about 44 megajoules. However, in 2030, this would reduce by 4%. So this would get down to below roughly 3 megajoules by 2030. That's to show us that clean energies will ramp up by 2030, and we're heading towards the net zero pathway. And in order for us to actually get to this net zero pathway, these clean technologies are capacitated by using the critical minerals. So as the demand for clean technologies increase, the demand for critical minerals increase, because critical minerals are the enabling factors. They provide the enabling environment, as we have previously seen in the various tables of the application of critical minerals and how they are used in generating this wind power. So we need things like wind turbines, we need the storage for electrical vehicles, where we are going to need lithium and lead. So the next table shows us the mineral production and 2050 projected annual demand from energy technologies. Just as I was saying, that energy, the higher the demand in energy technologies, the higher the demand in these minerals. So 2050 projected annual demand from energy technology as a percentage of 2018 annual production. That's what this table describes. So for aluminium, in 2018, it was 60,000. This data is from US Geological Survey, and it increased by 9%. It's projected to increase by 9% by 2050. And we can see that chromium has about 1% increase as a percentage from 2018 to 2050. Cobalt has about 460%. Copper is projected to increase by, the demand is projected to increase by 7% by 2050, graphite by 494% by 2050, indium by 231% by 2050, iron by 1%, lead by 18%, lithium by 488%, manganese by 4%, molybdenum by 11%, nickel by 99%, silver by 56%, titanium shows 0%, but I'm sure because statistics keep changing and research keeps being redone, so these things keep changing. Vanadium shows 189%. With this increase means increase in supplies, increase in production. And the next graph would show us the big producers of these metals that are crucial to the green energy transition, which are heavily concentrated in a handful of nations. Vanadium shows China and Russia, mostly more of China. Lithium shows Australia and Brazil and Chile. Graphite shows China and Brazil. Congo, cobalt shows Congo and Russia and Australia. Molybdenum shows China and Chile and USA. Chromium shows that South Africa is a major producer. We also have other countries. Major producer for aluminium is China. The major producer for lead is China. Manganese is South Africa. Copper is Chile. Nickel is Indonesia. Also, there's a lot of concentration of these minerals in Africa, in Nigeria especially, because Africa has abundant natural resources. Statistics have also shown that the demand for this, that industrialized countries, for example, US, Europe, and Japan, will still be vulnerable to supplies. Hence, would need many more countries, rich producers of critical metals aside from the major players. Africa has abundant natural resources, which include critical raw minerals, which are fundamental to the modern economics of other countries. Further, among these critical minerals are the critical earth minerals, which are critical to high-tech industry and are geostrategic in highly industrialized countries because of their major role these elements play in defense, aerospace, security, and the lack of security supplies in most industrialized countries. Why there is need for more research on the resource implications of a population in Africa of about 2.5 billion in 2050 to support evidence-based policy formulation, implementation, and planning for the continent. In other words, we need an African resource outlook. Nigeria has been highlighted to play a major role in the production of critical minerals in the world because it is rich in lithium, nickel, lead, iron ore, copper, manganese, and graphite, amongst others. In previous episodes of this particular platform, I've talked about some of these metals and where they're produced, but I just highlighted some nickel deposits in Kaduna, cobalt in Kano, lithium in Obudu, Cross River State, that occurs as rare metal-bearing pegmatites, lead in Ebony State. Next slide. We would see that natural resources, that Africa's top mineral producers are South Africa, Nigeria, Algeria, Angola, Libya, produce more than 2/3 of the continent's mineral wealth, and expressed in $1 million, we can see that the South African projection is worth about 124,963 million. So 124,963 million, and Nigeria is about 52,678,000. So it's the second. And we have Algeria, and we have Angola, Libya, Egypt, in other, Ghana, DRC, Gabon, and Zimbabwe. They all have their equations in million, what their mineral annual production in $1 million are. Now, why are minerals important? They are important because we need global energy security. It cannot be attained without mentioning these minerals, of which is in use in electric vehicles, which is now the largest global consumer. Minerals and metals are used in steel, smartphone and cement production, cathodes, magnets in wind turbines, and electric vehicles. Its need has been highly emphasized by bodies securing a new mandate to promote a net zero transition to counter climate change, with minerals and metals critical to transitioning as highlighted an area of focus. The development also comes amid mounting concerns from government officials and business executives that countries are pushing policies that will push up demand for dealing with potential energy shortages in the fallout of the Russia-Ukraine war. The next slide, where the critical minerals are found and issues faced with extraction. We already know that humans use metals in vast quantities, as we've already read so far and heard so far, and their extraction and processing have profound environmental consequences, particularly in the emissions of greenhouse gases. While they are found in abundance on land, they are depleting. Circular resource efficiency and responsible mineral value chain, in which its model includes recycling. Recycling is a form of urban mining, has been proven to be more sustainable practice and abates the culture of throwaway after use. Is human right friendly, and it's a good source against importation. So here, circular resource efficiency is trying to promote more resource efficient countries. So countries using what they can produce and reducing exportation. However, we already know that there needs to be a balance because some economies are being harnessed by all these trades. So it's finding that fine balance. Then urban mining also requires less energy than does primary mining. Primary mining, statistics have shown that as the global population continues to grow, there is a need to meet with the demand for critical minerals. An abundance of critical minerals is in the seabeds, is another source. Marine and deep sea mining, while in its early stages, has issues of its environmental assessment, environmental impact assessment, and life cycle assessment done properly. Ecological impacts have also been criticized for not being assessed at all in most cases, and very controversial due to the issues of other users of the space, for example, fishing, there's other stakeholders. Mining companies face a lot of environmental, social governance, and sustainability issues. These include environmental risks, community relations, and social license to operate. If ESG and sustainability issues are properly accounted for, then mining challenges reduce. So all these issues about environmental risk being circumvented, social risk and governance risk, if they are all being circumvented properly, then the challenges in mining reduces. That's what ESG talks about. ESG is all about getting the things right, getting licenses right, getting the social rights right, getting the governance right. Now, what is ESG, if we may ask? ESG encompasses a broad range of topics. Environment, it refers to climate change, biodiversity, wastewater, resource use, pollution. Social, it refers to human rights, labor practices, safety, health, community, diversity. Governance refers to corporate governance. So corporate, what are the corporate social responsibility of that mining organization to the community? What's the compliance? What's the executive pay? What's the diversity? Who are they lobbying? What's the approach to taxation? In the mining sector specifically, it covers the following on its agenda: environment, biodiversity, ecosystem services, water management, mine waste / tailings, so tailings from the mine waste, air pollution, noise, energy, how well are they being accounted for, climate change, which is the carbon footprint, the greenhouse gas protocol, where we have to make use of the life cycle assessment, the hazardous substances and mine closure. Then the social side of things refers to human rights, land use, how would the land be reclaimed or after use, resettlement, vulnerable people, how they've been protected, the gender, labor practices, work and community health and safety, security, artisanal miners, mine closure, which is mine decommissioning and aftercare use. Then the governance side of things refers to legal compliance, ethics, anti-bribery and corruption, transparency. What has caused the heightened focus of ESG? Not only are companies required to be compliant with a growing number of regulations in this area, but also practicing good ESG is increasingly critical from the strategic and marketing perspectives. Indeed, various factors can be identified as shifting strategic focus to ESG, including the push factors. These push factors has already been spoken about, are the governance side, and as well as the environment and social, but here it's being referred to as compliance and mandatory or voluntary reporting and legal obligations relating to the ESG procedures and standards. While the pull factors shows that when ESG are properly accounted for, it helps with competitive advantages in differentiating from peers and securing investment amidst the rising influence of specialist ESG rating agencies, corporate values, commitments to deliver on ESG elements of corporate strategy, and a drive to operate ethically and promote more responsible mining practices. And technical, including from a health and safety perspective, how well is that being also mapped? Social, political, and reputational risk management by enhancing community engagement. ESG and sustainability in the mining sector. The world today demands sustainable businesses that pay respect to future generations. So that is, it refers to, it means that we need to think about the future generations and whatever thing we are doing, such as mining. So from investors and consumers alike, for mining, this means the environmental, social governance compliance. And for explorers, developers, and miners, this is quickly becoming non-negotiable. So ESG is becoming mainstream. In order to circumvent all risks and make mining of these critical minerals sustainable, these are the ESG factors more broadly to take into consideration. It is country specific, so it depends on the country where the organization is mining, where the and as it gets down to community level as well. So on the country level, mandatory country specific obligations such as ESG mandatory obligations. In the UK, there's overview of the bribery Act 2010 UK. It provides visibility in the UK on how assets and licenses are awarded to extractive companies by incorporating into statute the requirements set out in the OECD Anti-Bribery Convention on the Extractive Industries, the Transparency Initiative. While UK legislation in this area is arguably the strictest, similar legislations in other countries includes the Foreign Corrupt Practice in the United States of America, the Germany Criminal Code in Germany, and the Prevention and Combating of Corrupt Activities Act 24 in South Africa, the Companies Miscellaneous Reporting Regulations 2018. In the UK, very large UK companies must include a corporate governance statement in the annual director's report stating either which corporate governance code was applied during the preceding year, or why no code if none was applied, and what corporate governance arrangements were in place. That's giving the regulators and public opinions more generally and a focus on sustainability, explaining why energy efficiency actions have not been taken in unlikely to be sufficient from an investor perspective. Another similar example is the JSE listing requirements and code of corporate practices and conduct in South Africa. Then there is also the requirements of companies' directors' reports that the JSE listing requirements must comply to, is a regime in the UK. Then there's the company's director report and limited liability partnerships, energy and carbon reporting regulations 2018 UK. Under this regulation on streamlined energy and carbon reporting SEC framework is being implemented via amendments to existing regulations. The large and medium-sized companies and groups, accounts and reports and regulations, which currently requires quoted companies to provide certain disclosures on greenhouse gas emissions in their directors' reports. Similar legislations include mandatory greenhouse gas reporting, which is required by law in North America, Australia, and Japan, as well as many EU member states. Then there's the community development agreements, which I'm sure we are familiar with because it's required by law in Nigeria, Australia, China, South Africa. These community development agreements are contracts between investors and communities through which the benefits of a mining project are shared with communities and other stakeholders. By way of example, in Australia, the Australian Native Title Act requires companies with mining licenses to negotiate and enter into CDAs with the Aboriginal communities that have legal interest in the land as native title holders. That's similar to when I came to Ebonyi State to carry out the project of trace metal pollution. I also needed to seek the stakeholders, which were the local communities, to seek an agreement with them. I couldn't just go into their land without having such an agreement put into place. So these are the perspective of EGS that need to be implemented before a mining industry or begins to mine in a space. We have the social responsibilities, such as we have the environmental impact assessment, which needs to be conducted first. And we also have the governance side of things, like the corporate social responsibility that I've already mentioned. Now, environmental, social, and governance pressures should feature in future planning about the transition into a low-carbon future. Global production of critical minerals using technologies essentially to low-carbon future is projected to rise by 965% for lithium, 585% for cobalt, 383% for graphite, 241% for indium, and 173% for vanadium by 2050. Many governments are adopting a stick and carrot approach, including green taxes on harmful environmental activities, tighter regulations, and new environmental standards and certifications for energy performance, emissions, and pollutants, including tax rebates for meeting these standards. Priority action to net zero pathway. Let's make the 2020s the decade of massive clean energy expansion. So all technologies needed to achieve necessary deep cuts in global emissions by 2030 already exist, and the policies that can drive their deployment are already being proven. Prepare for the next phase of the transition by boosting innovation. Clean energy innovation must accelerate rapidly, with governments putting research and development, demonstration and deployment at the core of energy and climate policy. Clean energy jobs will grow strongly but must be spread widely. Energy transitions have to take account of the social and economic impacts on individuals and communities and treat people as active participants. Set near-term milestones to get on track for long-term targets. Governments need to provide credible step-by-step plans to reach net zero goals, building confidence among investors to be able to invest, industry, citizens, and other countries. Drive a historic surge in clean energy investments. Policies need to be designed to send market signals that unlock new business models and mobilize private spending, especially in emerging economies. Address emerging energy security risks now, because that's the only way we can get to this part of net zero. Ensuring uninterrupted and reliable supplies of energy and critical energy-related commodities at affordable prices will only rise in importance on the way to net zero. Take international cooperation to new heights. This is not simply a matter of all governments seeking to bring their national emissions to net zero. It means tackling global challenges through coordinated actions, so through corporations. The next slide just shows global carbon emissions, that it's been increasing since the 1990s and up until the point of COVID-19 pandemic, where it started declining because there was lockdown. It started increasing again. And if we don't take time to just keep increasing, so we need to act now. Global energy security indicators in the net zero pathway. This shows that we have oil supply. Oil supply was high. The demand for it was up to 100 million barrels per day. Was up in 2020, was up to not more 90 million barrels per day. But however, by 2050, it's going to decrease drastically because of the demand of solar photovoltaic and wind, and so shall the demand of critical minerals increase. So if we see by 2020, critical minerals compared to the demand in oil supply is low, is below 10. However, by 2050, the projection is high, while that of oil is low. So while the projection is above 40, that of oil is just below 34%. And we can also see that the share of solar photovoltaic and wind in electricity generation by 2020 was below 20%, while by 2050, it's skyrocketed by 40% to about 70%. So that's the end of my presentation today. And I hope you all have enjoyed it. Please, I'm ready to take questions and some more additions if you have any to make. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Chidinma, that was a very wonderful presentation. I think before now, most of us might not actually understand what it takes to, put this together. But I think you've done wonderfully well, and we appreciate you for your time. It's not easy within your busy schedule to come up and actually give us some insights on this. We appreciate you for coming on platform. I appreciate you. Thank you very much. Right now, I think this is the time for us to, please, I will give time for some of us that want, first of all, do some, maybe contribute to today's presentation. And after that, maybe we'll take some questions. So Ato, I don't know if you have some people that have actually raised their hands up. I'm seeing some hands here. Okay, I'm seeing Janet Adeyemi, Engineer Janet Adeyemi is a president of Women in Mining, and she's here with us. I think it's a privilege to have you on board, Ma. We can take your contribution, please.
I want to congratulate my sister for a well-presented paper. Well-balanced, you covered everything, and I'm so excited. And the only thing I just want to that, you see, unfortunately, when we talk about net zero, it's like we are simply not preparing for it. You and I know that it's like we are operating in silos, whereas to be able to drive our mining industry, the energy mix, the institutions need all to have a working synergy. We have a very beautiful document on paper, but even right now, we don't even have the energy requirements. And I know that getting access to energy bonds, green bonds, becomes extremely difficult. And yet we are inviting companies to come into the country, you understand, with absolute technology. So these are reasons why some of us are championing what we are championing today. That is women in mining perspective. And you find out that if there should be inclusivity in the sector, there's the need to start looking at automation. There's the need to look at consider useless materials before and now regarded as transitional materials. So my question to you, my sister, is that what do you think the federal government should do? Because let me add another clause to it. You find out that in your course of presentation, and which we all know, that Africa holds a lot of materials in place. Sorry, my battery is running low. Let me charge it. That Africa holds a lot of materials in stock. Regulations. Nobody looks at ESG. You understand? Our leaders are eager. You understand? To just say, oh, they have a mining company that has come. China is coming, we are opening our door. This one is coming, we are opening our door. So what agenda can we set to ensure that G, CSR, ESIA, GIA, because new formulas are coming up every day, BIT, are looked into closely. That is, I'm talking of the treaties, bilateral treaties. All these things, once they are not in place, we are in trouble. So what agenda can we set as a nation, to address these things? Because one thing, yes, we are mining, but mining is finite. Once it's finished, it's finished. You understand? So what can we do as a country and then as professionals on this platform to make sure it is done, to make sure inclusivity is promoted? You understand? Because mining should become easier, where women can be part of it. Thank you. And once again, I say congratulations.
Okay, thank you very much, Ma, for that wonderful contribution and question. I think the summary is what can the government do? What is your take on that? Chidinma, what do you think the role of government in the whole of this thing? And I got one of the things she said, which is very, very interesting. She said a lot of formulas that keep coming up. I'm telling you, before we are talking about EIA, before you know it, they add S to it. And before you know it, R will come into it and A will go off and all that. But the truth of the matter is we want to mine in an environment that we can live. That is just the summary of what we are saying. We want to make sure that whatever we are saying, that people are coming into mine. Yes, they are coming into mine. But what are they coming into mine? What are we having in place for them? Like most of the ore that are being taken away from here, there's no even end point to actually checkmate the total metals that are present in most of the oils. You know, what are we cutting away and all that? So the processing line, we have to put it in place, even those that are processing what is the agenda in terms of environmental sustainability. So I think she's well understood. So I don't know, what do you have to say concerning her question?
I think I would say that there are so many ways the Nigerian government can look at it can tackle it. They can promote policies that can enable such environments, allow those that already know this, just as we are on this platform. They are very enlightened people in this particular matter who are either upcoming, whose voices are not heard, but they are very good at it. If they can give them an opportunity on the roads, on the space to be able to contribute to such policies, to do some kind of studies, first of all, in little groups, and then generate a policy that can say, okay, now we want to be able to live in an environment where we can allow future generations to also be able to participate in. So we will start in little groups. These are the people mining. Map out who are the various people mining, what is working, what's not working, who are the people that are participating. Because I think it's, as they say, charity begins from home before we can start allowing other people. So when we have our policies straightened, then it becomes well regulated. Then when other people come in, they see that we already have not EIAs that we have to get done first, just as that's what works for them here in the UK, for instance. They are, they have all these strict policies so that whenever people want to come and do whatever they want to do, then they look at they'll tell you this is how this is done, and so they pay so fees. What needs to be paid, then it has to be paid at certain exit points. There are exit strategies that are employed. So these exit strategies are policies that have, but then how can you build such policies in such unregulated environments? Because I know in Nigeria it's not easy. First of all, people are battling with that's and it needs to get, but I think it needs to include the voices of the civil society, the voices of the charities, the voices of the private sectors, not just them doing it on their own without really including them. If you don't include them, the policy cannot work. That's why things will not be getting straight. So I think it's enacting such policies, inclusive policies. That's what would work in the country. That's how sustainability can be attained before we can start to do the EIAs well and all that. That's what I think. And also social practice that encapsulates social practices as well as if we take things from not just the environment, the social side, the governance. If policies are enacted well, then all those other factors will be covered. Mining will be done, the risks will be reduced.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that response. Can we hear from Joseph? Joseph, are you there? Okay, can we have Arthur online, please?
Okay. Good afternoon, Arthur.
Okay, Joseph.
Here.
Okay.
Good afternoon.
You're welcome.
Good afternoon, Chidema. Okay.
Good afternoon.
My question was partly clarified by the previous speaker, but I want to speak in terms of creating opportunity in this clean energy technology initiative.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I don't know if my audio is okay.
Yes,
fine.
we can hear you.
So I want to speak to the issue. Okay, I want to speak to the issue about creating opportunities in this sector, especially as we are now looking at, these minerals in transition. For me, like most of the speakers have said, the policy of this government is not clearly in the direction we are talking about now. And when Chidinma was reeling out all those figures, I was very inquisitive. I want to see where Nigeria is presently, 2020, before we even talk about 2030. At least today, I don't know how much of these metals, rare earth metals, or which of them, that you can say this is a company that is producing this and this is the reserve we have here. And I think from the last conference we attended, the NMGS conference in Port Harcourt, I've seen what the Ministry of Mines and Steel did. They have done, they have come up with a map showing all those minerals which they have located. Now, from this reserve, can't we now begin to talk about specifics to say that, okay, even if the policies of government is not even in this direction, because they want to finish with the oil first, just like other advanced countries have done. They want to finish with the oil, earn as much as they can earn before you can begin to have these deliberate policies. So if we as professionals and practitioners in this industry will now say, okay, fine, even if to guide all these policy decisions, can't we begin to speak to the issue of our energy, electricity, for example? We're talking about energy mix and all that. Now, if we are looking at that, can't we now begin to concentrate on those metals, copper, for example, aluminium, for example, and begin to concentrate on this specific area and see how we can solve these energy issues. So this is what I'm thinking here. I don't know. This is the way I feel. This is the way, so that we can begin to look at these specific issues and begin to address them.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you for that contribution, Joseph. I think I get what you are saying. Like, you should know where you are before you talk about where you are going to. If you don't locate if you can't locate your position, it's very difficult to move forward. And that is absolutely true when it comes to the issue of mining in Nigeria. We need to understand, like, if we are talking about, if you look at the data or some of the table Chidinma presented, you'll find out that the world projection for 4 major critical metals are very high: cobalt, the graphite, the lithium, and the vanadium. So Nigeria has been this. We never knew there is this amount of lithium that could actually come out from our land in the recent time, if you actually understand what's going on now in terms of the lithium rush. But still, you find out that this data and this information were not there before. And it has started again. Most of the time, they will say there is no gold. There is no gold in Nigeria. Nigeria doesn't have gold, But when you go to the creeks of the corners of this country, you understand the kind and the amount of what is going on. And where it seems to actually be working out, the next you will see is that you see an insecurity will be created around that particular zone. Everybody will run away, So it's just like, being having the same thing all over and all over again, So I think it's very, very important that as a nation, we understand where we are. We are talking about this critical metal supply and all that. Now, if we don't explore them, have the data, the right data, have the right policies on ground, definitely we won't be prepared for it in the nearest years. So I think it's very important that we pay more attention. Yes, it's not just enough to say lithium is discovered here, lithium is discovered there, and all that. Where are the lithium in the country? Where are the cobalt in the country? Is there, which company is actually specific mining this? Do they have all it takes, all the government backups? Do they have what it takes to actually mine this mineral? There is also an issue of advocacy, I think issue of sensitization that actually needs to go on in terms of community and development agreement, because in most places, it is very difficult to some of the investors to actually find a very smooth ground or a kind of, a situation to operate smoothly, because we understand that, capital is a coward. So it becomes very difficult for most of them to actually operate. But we must do what we need to do. If we don't have security, we don't have most of the communities sensitized in a proper way, most of these things cannot be done. So it's not enough to say, this is there, this is that. On a regional level, you can see so many minerals everywhere. But which minerals can actually give us what it looks like to support this pathway we are looking at in the nearest future, the critical metal. So I think the policy development, the structure development, and the government awareness in some of these things are very, very paramount if we actually want to move forward. So I think that is just it. Thank you very much, Joseph, for that wonderful contribution. I think Ato is raising his hand. Ato, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay.
Okay. Please, I have a question. Looking at this net zero energy and transition element in net zero energy, I'm having this fear of where humans will end up, because now you're talking about more of automation, making the mining sector more automated. So Nigeria already is, you have a very high level of unemployment in Nigeria. And if I look at the future whereby human capacity, human involvement will be lessened because of the involvement of more technology. That means at some point we will not have a huge problem to fill. Because take for instance now, the introduction of drones into filmmaking has actually reduced the services of either the pilot who flies the helicopter when they want to take a particular scene, and the cameraman who does that. So if you think like that and bring it into the mining sector, whereby at the push of a button, a machine can do so many things at once, it reduces human involvement in this thing. So at the end of the day, yes, we are trying to reach net zero, but we're also creating another problem again, which you have to do of what of poverty. So I don't know, how do we strike that balance? Am I not getting it correctly? How do we strike that balance in achieving our net zero and also human involvement?
Okay, I have to thank you for that question. Maybe I think, Chidema, are you there? Hello? Chidema, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, Ato is actually, Ato's
hello,
fear
I'm
is,
here.
okay, Ato's
thank you
fear,
so much, Ato, for the, yes, okay. I'm here.
Okay. You understood what he asked. He's talking about automation. If we're actually going into automation, just like if you look at banks these days, just take bank as an example. The ATM, and the use of ATM and so many automation in the banking sector has actually dropped the most of the regular intakes you see in the banking sector. You find out that before you know it, machine can pay you, you can even deposit, machine will count everything and all that. So he's talking about the amount of automation. Is it something that you think that definitely will affect the employment rates? I think that's where it's coming from. Are we not losing? Are people not going to lose their job in terms of that? For me, I don't think it's more of automation actually ESG is actually talking about. But you can your ESG is not actually more of into automation. It's talking about technologies that are clean for our environment. ESG is all about the environmental issues, the social issues also, and the corporate governance. It's just talking about sustainability to ensure that as we are mining in the nearest future, okay, at the end of the day, we'll make sure that we live in a place that is conducive. But that is my own opinion. So I don't know what your opinions are.
Thank you very much. Also, the question of automation, I think for automation, you're talking about the clean technologies. That's my understanding. You're talking about the clean technologies required to transition to net zero. That's not ESG.
Yes. That's what I'm talking about.
Okay, those are the technologies that are required to transition. So we require, for instance, wind vane for generating wind energy. we require carbon capture, for instance, to capture all the carbon emissions. So they are trying to make things a bit more, yeah, you can argue some people see it as why would technology take over so many of all these things? But some people will say, well, how about biodiversity, planting trees that can take out the carbon as much as possible. But research and practice has shown that that's not enough. So that's why, people keep innovating more technologies to assist the natural process of carbon of extracting the carbon emissions. But ESG is completely different. ESG is all about the responsibilities that it requires for the mining industry, the government, to look at when they want to mine or when they want to go into such agreements. What are the community development agreements? What are the impact assessment that has been done in this space? What are the social responsibilities? What's the corporate social governance structure? That's what ESG is about. But the technologies are different. Technologies mean what would enable us to actually get to, because for us to get the sunlight, we need the solar photovoltaics. All these clean technologies is what will enable us to get the clean energy, how to extract this clean energy. But there are other natural ways of getting these things, but it's just how efficient and effective can it be on a large scale. So that's just the question, except there are ones that, let's say, authors decided to search into and develop further, so there are many of, yeah.
I think what author is trying to say is this: as beautiful as this clean technology is, he is talking about job losses. Are there going to be attendant job losses to this? For me, I would say to author, it's an opportunity to learn new skill sets because the value chain is huge. For example, the process of extraction and processing of even the commodity itself. Even if you are not part of that, you could be part of the land restoration program. That is an opportunity. There are also opportunities for recycling use. All those components that are damaging the environment, all those components, there are technologies that can clean out all those aspects. And that's where I think most of us as professionals should be able to position ourselves to do. Like in the oil and gas industry, it's not everybody that will be a contractor. You just find people doing a lot within the entire value chain, and different skill sets can be developed. And I think that is the way to go if anybody would want to, keep his job. For example, he mentioned about drone survey. That is even one huge area that we want geoscientists to begin to look at. And that's exactly what we are doing from our end now in Port Harcourt. We're trying to change the way that survey is done now. We all know about remote sensing, use of satellite technology, use of aircraft. Now you are using drone. Now you are very close to the earth, and then you have a lot of information that is residing in the images you are carrying. So you can have people now develop career in the area of image analytics. And that's exactly what we are trying to do. We'll be bringing some of these ideas to our conferences and all that. How we can now begin to build geoscientists to analyze their own data regarding mining projects, regarding cadastral survey, so that we can take charge of this business. So when you now have this approach and mindset, you see that there's a whole lot that has to be done and opportunities abound. At the base of creating opportunity, especially for finding these metals, is geological data. And drone is one way that you can get that easily and at cheap cost. So this technology would, you know, create more opportunities than really take out jobs. This is my thinking. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Joseph. Thank you. We appreciate that. It's very, very interesting that we need to understand that you cannot keep your old ideas without developing more and all that in the sector. So many things are coming up. So I think even more jobs will be created. What is there is for you to position yourself as what Joseph said. We need to look at more skills in the sector, even with the issue of securities and all that. Drone survey have become very paramount and important in terms of surveys. Now, please let's, Dr. Ado Keke has been there, raising her hand. Please, are you there?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, I'm there. Good afternoon, everyone.
You're welcome.
I thank Yvonne for the wonderful lecture. It is highly informative. My question, or rather comment, is in line with what Arthur has just asked. Because if you look at what is happening in our country, in Nigeria, the country today, there is more of a diversification from the oil sector to the solid mineral sector. Then in that solid mineral sector again, we are saying that we need to select the kind of minerals we now explore and exploit. While we have so many other minerals, then we streamline. So we streamline to the very few of the minerals we have. So don't you think that, because I see some of these policies, though they are realistic, they are true, but I usually go to the side of seeing it as more of international politics, because many of the countries that have advocated for the phasing out of coal, that coal is not a clean energy, many of them are now purchasing coal from some countries. Many of them are still using coal. But here in Nigeria, once they say, okay, we need to phase out these minerals, we'll be the first to phase it out, despite that our minerals, such minerals are still in abundance. And now that oil is being phased out, we are moving to, so they are now saying, okay, specific minerals, strategic minerals, we need to move to those minerals. So how do you think we can balance in Nigeria, specifically in the Nigerian context, we can balance between these ESGs, and I heard you said ESGs is country specific. So how do we now make our own? Is there any way we can put some specific nature in this ESG so that we can benefit still from the minerals that we need to use to alternate with the oil sector we are about phasing out? So how do we balance between this ESG and the economic benefits of mining in Nigeria specifically, since we still need to mine majority of these minerals, even coal, in order to make our economic stability? Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that contribution, and as well as a kind of a question. I will make some comments here, because you know what you just said now was exactly my position when we did
Hello.
Yeah, hello. Yes.
Yes,
So
ma. Yes,
what
ma.
you said.
Interject?
Yes, ma.
Yeah,
Can
hello.
I interject?
Yes, ma. Yes, ma.
Because I want to step out and I needed to react to something.
I thought as much.
Okay. I'll go on so that before.
I'm sorry, I'm in a meeting.
No problem. Go on.
I'm sorry, I'm in a meeting in Lagos and I need to go back to that meeting.
Okay,
but I just thought I shouldn't miss this webinar today. You see, 3 issues are raised here. It's unique to any country. ESG has its standards, and you find out that tactically those standards have been mapped even to the Sustainable Development Goals. No wonder we can easily create an atlas map that is a map between ESG and each of the SDG components. However, why it looks as if it's specific to each country is that some country has refused to graduate. I don't know, maybe you are hearing me. Some
yes,
countries
I can
have
hear
refused
you, ma.
to graduate to what it should be. Because, for instance, in our country, we don't even have digital directory. Who are the miners in this country? Do we even really have miners? We have artisans. Most of them are artisans and very, very small scale miners. Is it one excavator you will call mining company? So, and then the big companies that are coming in, some of them came to take advantage of Nigeria and say, yes, they said they want to mine. They are really not mining. They just want to take advantage. ESG, because even in the ministry as we speak, ESG is not being implemented. What is being implemented is EIA. EIA is completely different from ESG. That one is that. Then the energy issue my brother talked about. There's no way a country like Nigeria can rely entirely on one source of energy. There must be an energy mix. And until we decide to use that conjunctive use, you understand, where you are using water, you are using wind, like in Castina, you are using, and then we need to, you understand? Because I can tell you that there's energy generated now, but we cannot distribute because of the laws. So until all these things are looked into, and then we completely, decide, you understand, to work with the mining sector beyond paying lip service, we can't get there. And there are some germane issues when you talk about the mining sector, because you don't want to mine and make your people wretched. Mining is has a lot of cross-cutting areas. You understand? Cross-cutting areas. It affects our livelihood. It affects our water. It affects
health.
So if that is it, then you must pay attention to those vulnerable people. I'm sure you don't want to start mining lithium in your area now, and then people they're developing cancer, or people start having stunted growth. So that tells you that those vulnerable people, that's women, youths, children, must be taken seriously. But when you say it, people laugh. You understand? Because the index, the mining index of any country is determined by those factors. And there's no country that will give you, no IFC will not give you any loan that is green. When your index rating is poor, you have, you understand, the green bonds, who will give you? So these are all the things I believe we need to look together, you understand, because this paper is very important, you understand, which we have to continue to drive, all as a team, all of us here who have listened. Let's drive this paper, you understand, to make sure we have a position. Once again, I want to say thank you for the opportunity to contribute.
Yes, yes.
Thank you very much, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. There's another hand I saw here, but I don't know the name. It's coming. It's been up.
Tayo. Godwin, Gideon, this is Tayo.
Okay, Tayo. Okay. Oh, sorry. Our next presenter this month, Tayo, is around here. So, Tayo, what do you have to say? And I know you are ready for your presentation.
No, well, not exactly yet, but very, very soon I will be. But yes, quick one. Okay. Now, I think this is about the most educated, the most interactive sessions I've had on this platform. And I thank God for that, for Madame, the win woman. You see, one thing that we overlook, it is the adaptability of the ESG to our Nigerian situation. Now, she mentioned something that is very, very important. I've been privileged to be in this sector for 30 years. I've mined everywhere. You see, what you have, like you said, each country has its own uniqueness. The prevalent environment, mining environment in Nigeria is artisanal and small scale mining. Now, how do you domesticate? How do you adapt ESG to our reality? Very, very important. I'm going somewhere. See, true. Now, many of these companies, mostly coming from China, they are opportunity companies coming to exploit those loopholes now that those lacunas that we've created in our system because of so many factors. Many of them we've mentioned. Now, I want to contribute and also ask a question. Now, my contribution is this. We must realize that one of the major problems with mining in our environment is inadequate and appropriate financing Now, we don't have financing. We don't, even when there's a semblance of financing, it's not the right financing. Mining is a specialized industry. The financing must be tailor-made. Now, the kind of financing we need for mining is out there, but ESG is that nexus that will make those financing available. Like those multinational settings, there are organizations, there are investment agencies worldwide. And I will be honest with you, we have a lot of deposits. I mean, if you guys talk about lithium and all of those places, what you guys don't know that those of us that goes to down to the field, the lithium deposit in the state is huge. Lepidolite is plenty there, and they are rich in lithium, but that is by the wayside. There's so much. That's I said. There's so much to be talked about, but because of time constraint, now I want the speaker and other people to address how do we adapt ESG to our local reality. Most certainly, having in mind that the financing we need will be much more easily available when we have ESG. Many of those finances will be attracted by our ESG compliance.
Yeah, Tayo, thank you very much. I think partially from what you've just, thank you for your contribution, but partially what you've asked, I think Chidima had actually thrown more light on it. Previously, she said the government had a lot to do in terms of policy restructuring, policy formulation, to actually look at what's hot. But I'm not. I will also want her to comment on your question. I think, Chidima, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Sorry,
I'm here.
Chidima, sorry. 1 minute. See, I followed from the beginning, so I had her. But see, why I brought this question? Yep. She addressed mining, but see, we want to look at it in the context of our mining environment. Now, there is a difference between mining as it is. Our uniqueness, which is not only to Nigeria, most of African countries, is the uniqueness of our mining environment, the artisanal small-scale mining, which is 70, 80, 90% of our mining. So how do you address what she said was like is to address where you have industries. And then again, the issue of formalization comes in. I mean, so I want her to understand so that she can have an holistic view and address it in the reality of our own unique mining environment, which is artisanal small scale based.
Okay.
I think I would say for the artisanal miners, they need sensitization. I think there needs to be, apart from the policies from the government side, that needs to be inclusive. There also needs to be, education, sensitization. People need to be taught on, what they need to know, because most of these artisanal miners, like you've mentioned, they are probably not as educated as you people are on this. Most people here are probably people who have studied, have, understood the horizon of mining before they went into mining. Most of the artisanals don't know anything. They just go and they have the shovel. Well, they can dig the ground, they can do that, and but if they are equipped properly, if they're sensitized, if people understand what they need to do, understand their rights, they are vulnerable people as well. That's what I think. Some of them too might be educated, but they also don't understand the horizon of things that are happening in the government. I think the whole thing has to be holistic, such that there needs to be a balance. The government, the policymakers, the industries themselves, they need to come together and decide on what exactly they need to do. They need to sit down and before they develop such policies, it needs to be inclusive. It needs to be decisive as well. Not just saying if it is non-inclusive, it will be one-sided. So I think the artisanal miners need sensitization, but this can be done by people like this community that were on this platform, civil societies, even I know the education sector is already doing a lot by educating people, but for people who might not be able to afford to go to the universities and all, this is the way that they can be sensitized. And for us to actually get ourselves to be able to get those green, green fundings. We need to be able to create such platforms or such opportunities for ourselves. And how we can do that is by mapping out what exists. Who are these artisanal miners? Who are the miners that already have social, that are socially responsible, that have the all the certificate? Because I'm sure there are some miners who already understand these things, who before they started mining got the right certifications and all. So we need to be able to differentiate. We have those data already. Then when we have the data on ground, we can now start to know how the people to concentrate on sensitization, and then we can now actually develop the inclusive policies. But it's now being able to do that. I guess the government has to come into play. They need to release fundings as well. By the time we tackle all these things, then we can now attract international funders properly, because we already have data that exists. And we've already started to come to terms with our sensitization, with educating, and a lot of people understand, have a common ground. That's what I think.
Okay.
And then in terms of addressing the one of energy security, there's no way in Nigeria, everything is country specific, everything is community specific as well. There's no way that will stop mining other minerals. And, I'm just talking about transitioning to net zero. These are the ones that are required. But in energy mix, just as we have seen, even in at the 26th conference, coal was even still mentioned as a source of energy. So transitioning means gradual, there's something called just transitioning. Just transitioning means being able to transition, understanding the underlying conditions of each specific countries. So it's not going to be taken by force. It's going to be taken in a gradual form. But the understanding needs to be there that, there's green technologies. We need to mine responsibly. Sustainability needs to come in, because we need to think about future generations. We need to think about our health. We need to think about our security. But at the same time, that does not mean we eliminate other things, because there needs to be a balance. There needs to be electricity. How can there be electricity? It's not just from the green technologies. There needs to be coal. In Nigeria, for instance, there needs to be solar photovoltaic has not really started functioning that well. It's functioning in some areas. It's not functioning. So everything is just striking that balance. But I still believe that the government still needs to play, if they would listen, if they need to play a vital role, and there needs to be sensitization.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much for that response. I think also, like what you said, that is good. Olusola Olani actually contributed. She said multi-stakeholders collaboration is also needed in this aspect. I believe that is a collaborative thing. That's something that everybody that actually involved needs to actually come together. And these things will not happen in one day, even in terms of facing out so many things and other. Like the other speaker, Dr. Ada said, we can't just come up and start facing out everything at once. And he sees some of the things has to do with some international politics. You can't just phase out coal in one day, or you come and tell us to phase out or stop coal-fired power plants because of green gas effect. Meanwhile, most of the countries that are actually formulating some of these policies are coming down here to buy this coal from us and other. So I think that the same thing I said last time. I said we can start small and we gradually phase it out. Before we'll be able to get the energy required there should be an energy mix wherever we need to get it. What do we have most? Even if we are not getting more from coal, can we even, some countries have 30-40% of dependent on coal, but we don't even have 1% or something. So we can start with a smaller one, then we'll have wind, which is coming up, we'll have the solar coming up, then the gas and all that. So now we can't just say these things could be done once, So I believe it's a gradual effort for us to move forward. Dr. Mrs. Salau, you raised your hand before. I don't know if you have what to say. Our time is almost up. I think you need to maybe make your contribution before we round it up on today's presentation.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you very much. Everybody that contributed well. And in view of what we have on ground. Once we can increase our knowledge, develop our skill in any technological advancement, there will always be employment. I could remember in those days when we look at computer, we say computer will create unemployment. Today, we have not even been able to satisfy the market where with a advance of computer activities as well as technology improvement. What I want to add to this presentation all over is there should be advocacy in the mineral sector through the mineral value chains. We have a lot to cover. There are so many gaps. And I'm sure with advanced technology, we will be able to cover so much that in future, more work will be available. Job creation will be more than what we can really encompass as a whole. Look at in the area of academics, Mr. Joseph just said something. Area photography in those days has changed to what? Has changed area now. That's people. So when you develop your skill, you find job develops. Skill. Put up academic, grace of God, entrepreneurship we develop. That's nobody will wait on anybody's. Mr. Nduka, see that you are multitasking your brain. As you are driving, you are still listening to the our presentation. Mama President, Women in Mining, I understand everything about your schedule. And I was really surprised that you can still develop, give us 2 hours after your time schedule to listen to this presentation. I know your passion for the women, and anywhere you are ready to contribute. You've contributed immensely in this presentation, and we appreciate you. My dear woman, Olushola, thanks for always being with us. Every other person, I acknowledge your presence. I appreciate you. And I say that together we shall lift this country up in the area of mining. Don't forget, it's reality that the minerals will take over the petroleum. But how prepared are we? That is when this advocacy is needed. Because without advocacy, many people will not know what is even going on in the mineral sector. Thank you very much. God bless you. I rest my case.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Salau, for that wonderful contribution, and we appreciate that. And we want to say that today we've actually done a wonderful job, every one of us today, who has actually brought our time to be here with us on this platform. And we sincerely appreciate our presenter today, Chidima Iro, for your wonderful research on this topic. Also, this era is just more of ESG. Next month, we're also talking about ESG impacts on mining sustainability as has to do with Nigeria, which has actually will be done by Tayo Ajani-Furaji as he just finished talking with us now. I think it will be another interactive section for us. Today have been very, very interactive, and I thank every one of us for participating. Please do have a wonderful day ahead of you. If you have, you want to have the slide presented today, kindly submit your email before you go. In case you don't have the previous one, you want to have them, just indicate on the chat section. Please, we will have your email. At the end of the day, that will be actually sent to your various emails. Thank you once again for coming on board, and have a blessed day. Thank you.